I always hated how quiet the gym felt late at night. The music was still playing faintly over the speakers, but it was different after most people left. Like the sound was echoing in a place it didn't belong. The machines sat lined up in perfect rows, empty, polished under the harsh fluorescent lights, while the mirrors reflected back an image of a space that felt too big for just me. I told myself I liked working out when it was empty. No one around to watch me. No one to judge how much I lifted or how long I stayed. But the silence carried its own weight, and sometimes I could feel it pressing on me in ways that were hard to explain. That night, I kept glancing toward the far corner, where the cardio machines faced the glass wall. From the outside, the streetlights cast just enough of a glow that I could see faint shadows moving when cars passed. But when there were no cars, it was just black. The kind of black that made you wonder if someone could be standing there watching, and you'd never know. I tried to ignore it, focusing on the steady rhythm of the treadmill under my feet, but my eyes kept drifting back. The air inside smelled of rubber mats and disinfectant wipes, sharp and cold. My water bottle sat beside me, half empty, the condensation dripping onto the treadmill's plastic frame. I told myself I wasn't nervous. I was used to this. I've been here at this hour dozens of times. Still, I couldn't shake the thought that something felt off, like the place wasn't as empty as it looked. Every time I caught my reflection in the mirror, my chest tightened. The reflection wasn't wrong, but it didn't feel right either. Like the space behind me was holding something I wasn't supposed to see yet. I slowed down, letting the treadmill hum beneath me, pretending I just needed a break. But really, I was listening for the faintest sound that would prove I wasn't alone. The longer I stayed, the more I realized I wasn't working out anymore. I was just pretending to. My hands rested on the treadmill rails, but my eyes kept scanning the floor, the mirrors, the dark windows. Something about the air in the room felt heavier than when I first walked in, as if the walls were slowly pushing closer. I told myself it was just exhaustion, but deep down I knew it wasn't. I stepped off the treadmill and walked toward the weight racks, trying to look casual, like I wasn't watching the corners of the room. The dumbbells were neatly stacked, shining under the lights, but the smallest one, a 5-pound weight, was lying on the floor. I hadn't seen anyone drop it. I was sure it wasn't there earlier. For some reason, that detail unsettled me more than if I'd seen someone actually using it. While I bent down to pick it up, I heard the faintest creak, like rubber soles pressing against the wooden floor near the stretching mats. My head shot up, but the area was empty. I stood there holding that little dumbbell like it meant something, my breath quick and shallow. I tried to shake it off. I even laughed under my breath and muttered, "Get a grip." But when I walked to the water fountain, I noticed something that stopped me cold. My gym bag wasn't where I'd left it. I always kept it near the benches by the squat rack, tucked against the wall. Now it was closer to the changing rooms, as if someone had dragged it there. A hot wave of anger shot through me, and for a moment, it drowned out the fear. Who the hell was messing with me? This wasn't some random accident. Someone was in here. Someone had touched my things. I looked around the room again, my pulse hammering in my ears, and for the first time I noticed just how many blind spots the mirrors created. They showed reflections, yes, but never the entire room. Parts of the gym seemed to disappear behind the angles of glass. Corners you couldn't fully see no matter where you stood. I thought about the staff. There was a girl who usually closed up, someone I'd seen a few times, but barely spoken to. I trusted her enough to swipe my card and let me in after hours, but suddenly that trust felt flimsy. What if she wasn't the one locking the doors at night? What if someone else had her keys? My throat was dry, but I didn't drink. I just stood there, frozen, every instinct telling me to leave, but another part of me refusing. Walking out would mean admitting I wasn't safe, and I wasn't ready to say that out loud, even to myself. I started toward the locker room, moving slower than I meant to, telling myself I just needed to grab my bag and go. The hallway leading to it was colder, quieter. The second I stepped inside, the sound of the gym floor vanished. It was like the building swallowed me whole. And in that silence, I couldn't shake the thought that maybe leaving wasn't an option anymore. The locker room felt colder than the rest of the gym, the kind of cold that clings to your skin even through your clothes. The fluorescent lights buzzed above me, humming like something alive. I moved quickly to the bench where my bag had been left, but the sight of it stopped me. The zipper was halfway open. I never leave it like that. I felt a jolt in my chest, sharp and sudden, like my body already knew the truth before my mind caught up. Someone had been inside. I grabbed the strap with shaking hands, pulling it close, but then I heard it. The sound of a locker door shutting at the far end of the row. Not slamming, not loud. Just a soft, deliberate push. The kind someone makes when they don't want to be noticed. Every hair on my arm stood up. I wanted to run, but my legs felt heavy, almost locked in place. My breath came out shallow and uneven, echoing in the tiled room. I tried to whisper something, anything, to break the silence, but my voice caught in my throat. Then a shadow shifted near the showers. Slow, patient, as if the person knew I was watching. I froze, my pulse pounding so hard I could just enough for me to see the outline of a man. He wasn't dressed for the gym, no shoes, no workout clothes, just dark pants and a hood pulled low. His hands were empty, relaxed at his sides, like he wasn't worried at all. That scared me more than anything. He had been here the whole time, watching me, waiting. I stumbled back, clutching my bag like a shield, but the door to the hallway suddenly didn't feel real, like it was too far to reach. My mouth was dry, my chest burning, as the simple truth sank in. I had been locked inside with him. All the silence, all the little signs, they weren't in my head. They were his. He was never hiding. He was choosing when to let me see him. I don't even remember how my body moved, only that my hands pushed the door so hard it slammed against the wall. I ran without looking back, bag half open, shoes squeaking against the floor. The gym that had felt empty a moment ago suddenly seemed endless, every mirror stretching the distance between me and the exit. I kept waiting for the sound of footsteps behind me, for a hand to grab my shoulder, but there was nothing, just my breath tearing through my chest. When I burst outside, the night air hit me like ice. My car was parked under the dim streetlight, too far, too exposed. I fumbled the keys, dropped them once, maybe twice, before finally getting inside. My hand shook so violently I could barely turn the ignition. When the engine started, I didn't think, I just drove. Red lights, stop signs, none of it mattered. I only needed distance. By the time I got home, my body was numb. I sat in the driveway with the car still running, staring at my own reflection in the windshield. I thought about calling the police, but what would I even say? I had no proof, no name, just a shadow that stepped out too late. I didn't go back to that gym. I canceled my membership the next day. But even now, years later, I still feel it. That moment when I realized someone was always there, waiting, and I almost didn't make it out. I used to think gyms were safe places. Bright lights, cameras, staff who came and went. But after that night, I understood how fragile that safety really was. All it took was one person slipping in unnoticed, one person who didn't belong, and suddenly the whole building turned against me. Now, every time I step into a public space, I catch myself scanning corners, checking doors, memorizing exits. It's not something I do on purpose. It just happens, like my body doesn't trust the world anymore. Sometimes I wonder if he followed me out, if maybe he watched where I drove, where I lived. I never saw him again, but that almost makes it worse. He could be anywhere. He could still be watching, just waiting for someone else who thinks they're alone. The thing that stays with me most isn't the shadow or the silence. It's the calmness in the way he moved. He wasn't panicking, wasn't rushing. He had time. That meant he'd planned it, or at least thought about it before. I walked straight into it without ever realizing. I try not to think about how different it could have ended if I hesitated 1 second longer. But some nights, when I wake up and the house feels too quiet, I can still see him stepping out of the shadows, as if the moment never really ended. And maybe in a way it hasn't. It was early morning this time, not night, the kind of hour when the sun isn't up yet, and the streets still feel half asleep. I thought it would be safer than going late, but the emptiness carried the same kind of weight. The parking lot was mostly deserted, just my car and one other, an old, beat-up sedan parked crooked across 2 spaces. I noticed it immediately because the windows were tinted so dark I couldn't see inside. I told myself not to care, but something about that car stuck in the back of my mind as I swiped my card at the door. Inside, the gym felt too bright. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, bouncing off the mirrors, making the place feel harsh instead of safe. A man was already there, sitting on one of the benches with no weights in his hands. He didn't look like he was working out at all, just sitting, hunched forward, staring at the floor. I nodded politely when our eyes met in the mirror, but he didn't nod back. He didn't even blink. I tried to focus on my own routine, plugging in my headphones, but I couldn't shake the sense that every time I looked up, he had shifted just slightly closer, first by the dumbbells, then near the stretching mats. His movements weren't natural. He wasn't carrying a towel or water, wasn't lifting anything, just following a little behind, as if waiting for me to notice. When I went to grab a disinfectant wipe from the wall dispenser, I caught something that made my stomach twist. My lock on the hallway locker, one I had clicked shut myself, was hanging open. My bag was inside, unzipped. I froze, staring at it, trying to remember if I had somehow forgotten. But I hadn't. I knew I hadn't. The sound of footsteps came up behind me, steady and slow. I turned, already knowing who it was. The man was standing there, closer now than before. Too close for a stranger in an empty gym. His expression was blank, almost bored, like none of this mattered to him at all. He didn't say anything. He just stood there, letting the silence stretch until it felt unbearable. That was when it hit me. He hadn't been working out. He hadn't even signed in at the desk. He was never here for the gym. He was here for me. I forced myself to move past him, pretending not to notice how close he had gotten. My hand shook as I grabbed my bag from the locker, zipping it shut as if that act alone could erase the fact that someone had been inside. My heart was pounding hard enough that I could feel it in my throat. I wanted to leave right then, but I hesitated. Leaving too fast felt like admitting something was wrong, like giving him power. So instead, I carried my bag to the corner near the treadmills, pretending I still had a workout to finish. I could see his reflection in the glass as I walked away. He didn't follow, not immediately. He just stood in the same spot, watching. Minutes crawled by as I faked adjusting the treadmill settings. When I finally glanced back, he wasn't there anymore. The space by the lockers was empty. My skin went cold. I scanned the mirrors, the mats, the rows of machines, but he was gone. I told myself maybe he'd left, but I hadn't heard the door. And in a building this quiet, I should have. I thought about the car outside. That old sedan. Something in me knew he hadn't just disappeared. He was waiting, maybe inside, maybe just out of sight. My stomach knotted, but my body refused to move. I felt trapped, cornered by my own fear. Every shadow in the mirror seemed sharper. Every squeak of the air conditioner felt like a footstep. And then I heard it, a faint click, like metal sliding into place. The sound came from the emergency exit at the far end of the room. It wasn't loud, but it was unmistakable. Someone had locked it from the inside. I froze, staring at the red exit sign glowing above the door. The reality hit me like ice water. He wasn't gone. He was still here. And now, he had made sure I couldn't leave without going past him. The silence stretched so long it felt like hours. I finally forced myself to grab my bag and head for the main entrance, walking fast, but not running, trying to keep my breathing even. But when I rounded the row of machines, he was there, leaning casually against the wall, like he'd been waiting all along. He didn't speak. He didn't need to. The way his eyes locked onto mine told me everything. That I wasn't a person to him, just something he had chosen. My throat tightened, my hands numb around the bag strap. I thought about yelling, but the empty gym swallowed every sound. No staff, no one coming in this early. It was just me and him. When I stepped sideways to get around, he shifted with me, blocking the path, not threatening with words, not reaching out, just placing his body between me and the door. It was deliberate, calculated. He was showing me how trapped I was. For 1 second, my body shut down completely. No breath, no thought, just the sharp, undeniable truth that I wasn't leaving here unless he let me. I don't know what gave me the strength, but I shoved past him, hard enough that my shoulder slammed into his chest. He stumbled, Just slightly, and that was enough. I ran, bag slipping from my arm, keys clutched so tightly they cut into my palm. The door beeped as I swiped my card, and I was outside before I knew it, sprinting across the lot to my car. The old sedan was still there, its windows black and silent. I didn't look inside. I couldn't. My only thought was escape. I locked my doors the second I got in, starting the engine with trembling hands. I expected him to come out running, to follow, to yank the handle before I could drive. But when I glanced back at the gym, the doorway was empty. He hadn't chased me. He didn't need to. I drove home on autopilot, checking the mirrors every few seconds. My chest hurt from breathing too hard, my vision blurry from the tears I hadn't realized were there. When I finally pulled into my driveway, I sat in the car for a long time, shaking, too scared to go inside. I never told anyone the full story. Not the police, not even my closest friend. What would I say? A man watched me, touched my things, blocked my path. He never spoke, never hurt me physically, never did anything I could prove. But I know what he was doing. I know what he wanted. I quit that gym the same week. I started carrying pepper spray, double-checking my locks, scanning every parking lot before I got out of the car. But even now, years later, it hasn't left me. Sometimes I still see him in my mind, his face blank, his body unmoving, as if he had all the time in the world. What haunts me most isn't that morning, though. It's the thought that maybe he's still out there, sitting in some other gym right now, watching someone else the way he watched me. And maybe this time, they won't make it to the door. It was during the middle of the day this time, when the gym was supposed to feel safest. Music playing, sunlight spilling through the high windows, people scattered across the machines. I remember telling myself I liked this hour better, less lonely, less dangerous. But safety has a way of feeling fake once you've seen how thin it really is. There was a trainer there I'd spoken to a few times. He wasn't assigned to me, but he always made small talk, asked about my progress, suggested tips, nothing unusual. At first, I thought it was just friendliness. He had that kind of easy smile, the type that made you feel like you were being looked after. I wanted to believe that. I wanted to trust him. That afternoon, when I finished my set, he came over and pointed out how my form could be better. He offered to spot me on the bench press. It felt normal enough, so I agreed. But while I was on the bench, pushing the bar, I noticed something that unsettled me. His hands weren't where they should have been, not hovering under the bar, ready to catch it. They were closer to my chest, almost too close. When I looked up at him, he was staring straight down, not at the bar, not at the weights, at me. A small thing, easy to brush off, but it left me cold. After that, he started showing up more often when I was there. He always seemed to be near, even if I hadn't seen him come in. If I was on the treadmill, he was behind me on the bike. If I went to the stretching area, he appeared with a mat. I told myself it was a coincidence, but it didn't feel like it. One day, he asked casually where I lived. I laughed it off, not answering, but he pressed. Which neighborhood? Just curious. Something about the way he said it, so light, like it didn't matter, made it worse. When I went to the locker room that day, I noticed something wrong. My water bottle was gone. I knew I'd left it in the side pocket of my bag. Now the pocket was empty, zipper half open. I searched the bench, the floor, telling myself maybe I misplaced it. But deep down I knew someone had taken it. And when I came back out, he was standing there by the door, holding a bottle that looked just like mine. He smiled when he saw me, lifting it slightly before setting it back down. He didn't say a word. I couldn't focus after that. Every set felt heavier, every breath shorter. I tried to convince myself it wasn't my bottle, but the detail ate at me. The dent in the cap, the sticker on the side, I knew it was mine. The next day, I told myself not to go back. But by evening, I found myself there anyway, routine pulling me like a chain. He was already there when I walked in. I froze at the entrance, considering turning around, but he spotted me instantly, waving with that same easy smile. I went through the motions, headphones in, music blasting, but it didn't matter. I could feel his eyes on me. I pretended not to notice, but paranoia crept in until I could barely hold the weights. My chest tightened, my palms slick with sweat. When I finished, I went for my bag quickly, not even bothering to wipe down the machine. The zipper was closed this time, but when I reached inside, my heart stopped. My house keys weren't there. I dumped everything onto the bench, searching, panicking. Gone. I turned, and he was there again, standing a few feet away. He wasn't smiling this time. His face was blank, unreadable, and in his hand, dangling casually by his side, were my keys. My throat went dry, words sticking to my tongue. I wanted to demand them back, but my voice wouldn't work. I reached a hand out, trembling, but he didn't give them. He just let them swing lightly from his fingers. His eyes locked on mine. I felt sick. My keys meant he knew where I lived. My safe place wasn't safe anymore. He could be inside before I ever knew it. The realization hit me so hard I nearly collapsed. When I stepped forward, he finally spoke. Just one sentence, calm, almost playful. "You should be more careful." Then he dropped the keys onto the bench beside my bag and walked away, as if nothing had happened, as if he hadn't just ripped away the ground under me. I sat there frozen, unable to move, staring at those keys like they were something poisoned. My heart was hammering so fast I thought I might faint. By the time I looked up again, he was gone. I didn't even pack my bag. I grabbed the keys with shaking hands, shoved everything inside, and ran to my car. The parking lot felt endless, every shadow a threat. I locked the doors the second I got inside, hands gripping the steering wheel so tightly they ached. The drive home was a blur. Every car behind me felt suspicious, every turn a trap. When I finally pulled into my driveway, I couldn't bring myself to get out. I sat in the car for nearly an hour, staring at my front door, wondering if he had already been inside. That night, I didn't sleep. Every creak of the house made me jump. I checked the locks over and over until my fingers hurt, but it didn't matter. He had held my keys. He knew where I lived. I canceled my membership the next morning, told myself I was done with gyms for good, but it didn't change anything. The damage was already done. I don't work out in public spaces anymore. I barely even trust myself to go for walks at night. What haunts me most isn't the smile he wore, or the way he followed me, or even the fact that he touched my things. It's that he let me see it. He wanted me to know. He wanted me to feel powerless. And I do. Even now, years later, I still keep my keys in sight at all times, never leaving them unattended. But late at night, when I hear the faintest sound outside my door, I can't help but wonder if he ever made a copy. And if one day, I'll wake up to find him standing inside my house, smiling the same way he did at the gym.